And welcome to our ADA webinar series about preparing for camp. We are super excited to have everyone joining us this evening. We have some great presenters and some great panelists that are going to share a lot of information. We are recording the webinar, so if there's ever anything we cover tonight that you would like to go back and reference, we will be getting this up on our website in the next few days. So there is a lot of information, but what we want to start with is we want to quickly just kind of go through what is our agenda tonight, so everyone has an understanding of what we'll be covering. And there's also the Q&A is open at any time, so you can drop questions in the chat box, and then we'll have time at the end to answer all those questions from our great presenters. So a lot of the things we want to cover tonight is, what is diabetes camp? How is it different from your traditional YMCA and after school camps? What are the known benefits of diabetes camp? How to know if you and your camper are ready for camp, the different types of camps that are out there, and the top 10 medical procedures and questions that are typically asked of our medical teams. We know there's more than 10, but we thought we'd cover the most prevalent ones on there. And then also just want to give some information around financial assistance and registration, who to reach out to if you have questions, and just to kind of talk through the process for families who have never been through this before. And then we'll cover our Q&A at the end. So our goals tonight, this is really introduction of what you can expect at most diabetes camp. The presenters that are on today represent both the American Diabetes Association, DECA, which is the Diabetes Education Camping Association. And then we also have one of our medical directors on, who is also our head medical advisory committee lead. So there's a lot of great knowledge on this call, and we are excited to get to share it with you. You should always check if you are not registering for a camp that's affiliated with the ADA. That is okay. We want to make sure every kid has a spot across the country to go. But a lot of what we will share tonight is policies and procedures that are pretty standard across the board. But if you have specific questions for your camp directly, just make sure to reach out to them to get those answered. And also today, the information provided reflects our camps that we represent, but we want to make families educated in all decisions, even if it's not an ADA camp. So what is diabetes camp, and what are the known benefits of camps? We've done a lot of research. We partner with a lot of organizations that have done research, and really Diabetes camp is a chance for you to be with others who live with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It's really their opportunity where they aren't the only ones singled out. They are the norm. And it is a great opportunity for them to get to explore, learn new ways to care for themselves, learn from their peers, learn from our excellent medical teams that are on site, while also just be able to be a kid and have that traditional camp experience. Camp's also a place where campers get the opportunity to learn new skills through informal learning. We do provide diabetes education, but in a very informal setting where kids are learning great new skills, whatever stage they're at. If they're newly diagnosed, if they're 5 years in, 10 years in, we really make sure to tailor what they learn at camp to what their knowledge and their age level is ready for. Our campers, we look for them to gain skills related to their diabetes management. We want them to gain confidence in the skills that they have, learn independence. One of the biggest things that comes out of diabetes camp is lifelong friendships, lifelong connections, getting together later in life. We have a lot of volunteers who were former campers and grew up going to camp and now are on our medical teams and our camp staff teams. And really, we want them to meet mentors and medical professionals who are dedicated to increasing their knowledge and meeting them where they're at in the process. That being said, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to talk about how to prepare yourself to send your child to camp.
Hi, everyone. So nice to get to meet you all virtually. I'm Lisa with the Diabetes Education and Camping Association. Grateful to partner with the ADA here today to share just a couple of things with you before I turn it over to Monica and Ryan for more detailed information on these things. So how to prepare yourself to send your child to camp. And a couple bullet points on here just so we can break it down for kind of the realness that it is. I also am a type 1 parent. So, well, in both ways, I am a type 1 who is a parent, and my child also has type 1, so who goes to camp. So I have a few different lenses to these things. But I think it's important for us, especially as parents and caregivers, to just take a second before we even get too far down the thought trail, to just identify really how complicated of a question that this is. And as camp leaders that are here on this call with you today, we certainly respect all the curiosities that you might have. And I think it's also really helpful, though, to allow yourself time to process through all of these different layers of curiosity. Some of the things to prepare yourself to send your child to camp, you need to think about what you need, right? You might not be ready. You might be nervous. You might be afraid. You might not know all the details about the camp or how they staff or how they treat low blood sugars. What does their monitoring of blood sugars look like? What's the interaction between you with your child while they're at camp and you with that camp medical team? So just it's kind of more of a point of empowerment for you. Jot down that list of things that are just your feeling as a parent. Are you ready? And the things that you're not ready on, jot down that list so you can get it somewhere tangible and it gives you something that you can talk about with other people. Considerations for your child. Goodness, it's not even just diabetes that makes sending your child off to camp a curiosity, right? You're trusting somebody else, maybe that you don't know hardly at all, to care for the most important people in your life. So again, this is really important to think about, and no judgment to you for deciding to send them yet or to not, or to too nervous or to not. But it's important to think about what are your concerns and curiosities versus your child. Maybe your child has specific things they don't know. Maybe they only want to go to camp if they know camp does arts and crafts every day. Their concerns and different things, right, might be different. So it's just understanding that you'll have a list, they'll have a list. The child might want to know if they get to meet any campers, any other friends prior to camp. A lot of times camp will offer opportunities to get the kids to meet each other a little bit before they go, which makes it more comfortable. So different things like that. And I think just again, separating it out. What do you need to prepare you? What does your child need to feel prepared as well? And then realizing ultimately the energy that you have in those conversations with your child about their camp readiness, they'll pick up onto your energy too. So a neat encouragement for you to keep that in mind. Considerations for the camp. Yeah, I think what we've come to find out is diabetes camp is a place that's accessible, and we really want every child with diabetes that wants to come to camp to be able to find a camp environment that's going to be the right spot for them. And also, as you're preparing to send your child to camp, I think it's really important to be as open, upfront, and honest with the camp as you possibly can. This is the time to disclose all of those things that you're not sure if you need to tell them or not. This is the time to do that. Things, even if you're not sure, like if your child is used to a nightlight at home, that's something really helpful to share with the camp. We don't want our kids to get, scared in the evening and at bedtime. Does your child do better with a one-on-one during school? Maybe they have other medical considerations besides diabetes that is a part of their life journey. And so all of the things that you might, tell a school nurse, tell a school, tell a babysitter or someone watching your child for the day, and just the things that in your parent heart are important to your kiddo. Those are the sorts of things that you should be jotting down and then disclosing with the camp. And then they're able to filter out what they really don't need. Not that they don't need, but let's just say they always have nightlights in the cabin. They might not need to make an extra accommodation for your child to feel safe and secure in their cabin environment. And then also considerations for attending non-diabetes camps. Technology is making all sorts of activities possible for kids with diabetes and more safe and exciting for folks to have more options. So certainly we're all here on behalf of diabetes camps. You should definitely check out a diabetes camp. And also if you're thinking of sending your child to a non-diabetes camp, then there are also some things that are important to consider. Getting that camp a list of just the basic things that they're going to want, that you're going to want to know that they're going to cover for you. That, understanding what their staff ratios look like. Do they have an on-site healthcare provider that you could meet with before to talk about things like your child's, diabetes independence versus where they need some more help and one-on-one time? Are you going to have a role as a camp counselor, perhaps, if they don't have enough support on staff to take care of the diabetes needs that your child might have? So breaking it down into these buckets, and I think just empowering yourself with this idea that as you're preparing for this, you're really doing a tremendous amount of work that covers a wide variety of areas. And so bottom line, with all of this, as you're preparing, if you run into something that makes you a little bit unsure, a little bit uncomfortable, keeping in mind that as parents, we are just programmed as parents and caregivers to look for those opportunities for safety. Also, being a little bit unsure doesn't mean it's unsafe. So as you're going through these process, you'll find some things you don't quite know. Jot them down, bring them to that camp leader, bring them to your healthcare provider, bring them to an organization like one of ours on here today, and we can connect you to somebody to help answer the questions and take out some of those, some of the worries from you and your plate. So there's my overall tips for you. Now I have the honor of transferring this over to Monica, who's going to dive a little bit deeper into some more of the things you'd like to know.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday, right? I'm so excited to be speaking with you today. My name is Monica, and I'm one of our camp directors here at the ADA. I also am a former American Diabetes Association camps camper. So I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 8, with type 1 diabetes, and I started attending camp when I was 10. My experience at camp truly changed the trajectory of my life in some very rich ways. And it gave me a lot of confidence in my diabetes management. It also built a community of people with type 1 diabetes for me that I had throughout my childhood and adolescence and up until today. So I'm always very excited to talk to you about getting the opportunity of that for camp to more campers. So excited to be chatting today. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to know if your camper is ready for camp and ways that you can prepare your camper to be successful at camp. So first, we're going to talk through some signs that your camper might be ready for camp. So one of the things we want to look for is whether they can manage daily tasks on their own. So here we're talking about hygiening, bathrooming, dressing, eating, things like that. In a little bit, we're going to talk about different types of camps like days and overnight camps. So this might vary depending on the type of camp you're choosing. But one of the things like bathrooming, even at our day camps, we always have staff around to make sure we're prompting for bathroom breaks. But we want to make sure that your camper can actually be in the bathroom and toilet themselves. Same thing with overnight camps for like showers. We will be prompting them to take their showers, wash their hair, and at overnight camp, we shower every day. That's a very important rule at camp. But we want to make sure that they can physically shower themselves. So those are just some things to look out for. Another thing we want to look out for is, can they follow instructions and participate in group activities? And can they separate from their electronics and engage in group activities? If they can get through the school day, they're probably ready to come to camp in that way. At camp, we do not use our phones for anything other than diabetes management, which Dr. McDonough will talk about in a little bit. But we want to make sure that they're able to kind of disengage from electronics and engage with their peers. We also want to look out for whether they can communicate their needs and ask for help. We have a massive staff at all of our camps, huge medical teams, a lot of counselors that go through training and are very excited to be there to help your camper. We just want to make sure that they are able to advocate for their needs. And then this last one is specific to overnight camps or residential camps. Think about whether they can sleep in their own bed or if they have experience with other caregivers putting them to sleep. So at camp, they will share a cabin or a bunk with other campers of similar ages. There will also be counselors in the cabin with them and med staff kind of coming throughout the night to check blood sugars and things like that, which Dr. Ryan will also touch on. But we want to make sure that they can sleep in their own bed throughout the night without distress. Megan, we can go to the next slide here. A couple things I want to touch on here. It is okay if your camper needs help with diabetes tasks. A lot of the time we'll get the question like, my camper doesn't carb count independently. That is absolutely okay. And that's what camp is for. We will be filling out carb sheets with them and doing it together. So there is no need for them to be independent with those things. That includes dosing. And actually it is an important rule at camp that dosing is always supervised by a medical professional. So they do not need to dose independently. They do not need to carb count independently. We have people to do that with them. It is also okay if they feel nervous about being away from home. We're going to talk a little bit about things that you can do to help prepare them, but that is a very normal feeling, especially if it's our first time away. It's also okay if they've never attended a camp before. All camps are super excited to have them for the first time. So that is not a worry. Right. So what are some things that you can do to help prepare your camper for camp? Most importantly, number one thing is to get excited and to talk about camp often. If your camp has a virtual orientation or an on-site orientation or virtual tours, do those things with your kids, talk about it often and get excited about it. Be confident that they will succeed at camp and let them know that they're in safe hands with the care at camp. If you are confident, they will be too. We also suggest that you include them in as many steps as you can to prepare for camp. From registration in February to packing in July, have them be part of the process. So when you have to run out to grab a sleeping bag for camp, bring them with you. That's a great natural time to talk about what those overnights are going to look like, who's going to be looking at their blood sugar, where they're going to be sleeping, and just kind of get them prepared and excited. We also encourage you to talk about the hard parts of camp. Normalize being nervous because it is totally okay to be nervous. Missing home is normal and other campers will feel that way too. So reassure them that it is okay and that there are people there to help them. Their counselors, their camp director, their med staff are all there to help them through it. Come up with a plan for them for when they miss home. One of the things we really encourage at camp, if they're missing home, is to write a letter to you. Pack stationery and pens and envelopes. Encourage them to pack comfort objects. So have those conversations with them, like what blanket do you want to bring from home? Do you want to bring any photos with you? And overpacking is okay. I definitely do it when I go to camp. So we also want you to set expectations around communication during camp. So make sure that you know your local camp's communication policy. At ADA camps, as I said, cell phones are used for diabetes management only. So make sure to let your camper know that from the beginning, that they will not have their phone in their hand to be texting and calling, but that their camp director has your phone number. That's a really important thing that we remind them because it makes them feel safe. Your director, Monica, has my number and can get a hold of me if we need anything. So you are totally good. That is a really important conversation to have. All right. Another thing we want you to do ahead of time is to think about support needs. And Lisa touched on this as well. But if your camper has a 504 plan at school that's not related to diabetes or diagnoses outside of diabetes, make sure to connect with your local camp director so that they know how to best care for your camper while they're with us. And I say this again because it's so important. Stay calm and confident. Like if you are excited and calm about camp, they will be too. Talk about it all the time and get super excited. We also recommend, if you've not done it before, to try a practice sleepover or a night away. Even if it's just at a neighbor's house or grandma's house, try it out and then debrief with your camper. How was it? Did you go to sleep okay? And then talk about camp. Like you're going to be away for this many nights, and talk about what that will be like. So there's just some tips and tricks to prep for camp. Awesome. So what will your camper gain at camp? Most importantly, a sense of community and belonging. One of my favorite moments at camp is on the last day. when they're all getting out their scrap paper to exchange phone numbers so they can have play dates and keep connected throughout the year. We hear all the time from parents about how these camp group chats are always blowing up, and we love that. Their community is the most important thing. So that is the most important thing that they will gain. They're also going to gain confidence in managing diabetes. We love to celebrate firsts at camp. So we do a lot of celebrations for, first finger poke by ourselves or first sight change on our leg. That is something we really, really get proud and excited about, and that shows and will come home with them as well. Go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what types of camps we offer. So we at the ADA have a few different types of camp. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about overnight camps and day camps. I know Lisa has some information about other camps under the DECA umbrella. So to find a camp near you, you can always check out the ADA's website or DECA's website to find your closest camp. You can go to the next slide. So our day camps, they're typically ages 6 through 12, sometimes 5 through 12, and they're just that. Our campers come just for the day. They sometimes have counselor in training or leader in training programs for our older kiddos or teenagers, but that varies by camp, so connect with your local camp to find out. They're typically 4 to 5 day sessions, and hours vary by camp, but you will drop off in the morning, have a full day of fun activities at camp, and then pick up in the afternoon. And our residential camps or overnight camps are typically start a little bit older, so usually 8 to 17. Some camps offer starting at 7, and there's sometimes mini sessions. So again, make sure to look at your local camp. CIT and LIT programs often exist at these camps, which are awesome. They're typically 5 to 7 days overnight. They're staffed with a huge medical staff and counseling team that are there to take care of your camper. And they are an awesome time. And like we said, that that's where you're really going to want to think about those overnights and how they go when your camper's away from home. Right, and I am going to pass it to Megan to talk about some of the other camp and events that we have available.
There we go. I had to get off mute first. All right, so just a couple other types of camps that are out there. So maybe your camper's not ready for a full week, or they're not ready for even day camp. We do offer other types of camp, as do other organizations. So a lot of times there are family camp weekends where, regardless of the age of your camper, you get to go spend the weekend with them, enjoy activities together, spend some time with other parents. They get to do activities as kids, and then you guys are all together, for meals and in the evenings and things. So it's a great way for families to engage with other families in their community and meet other local families. We also offer, through Riding on Insulin, ski and snowboard programs. So these are one-day camps at about 9 to 10 different locations across the country. So they're a great one-day option for kids to get a little bit of freedom. Out on the mountain, parents get the chance to interact with other parents or ski on their own or snowboard. But they're a really great one-day option where the kids are completely safe. They're coming in for blood glucose checks throughout the day. They're well taken care of on the mountain, and it's a great opportunity for the kids to get together in the winter if they also want to do summer camp also. So we have a lot of winter camps that offset the summer camps, so kids get more opportunities to see each other once they've built those friendships throughout the year. There's also a lot of one-day events that are hosted where they could be baseball games, parent get-togethers at the zoo. There's a lot of mom's night out, a lot of dad get-togethers. There are some camps that are family camps that happen in Florida or different places throughout the summer through Children with Diabetes. So there are lots of great opportunities to find something to test out or see what works for your family if the traditional camp models isn't what you're looking for. We've also seen a lot of expansion into teen weekends. A lot of teens that are newly diagnosed or have the opportunity to go to summer camp, but really want to see their friends again in the spring and fall. So a lot of our camps have expanded into teen weekends and now are also expanding into adult weekends. So there is a lot of adults that are diagnosed after the age of 18 and never got that opportunity to go to camp. So we feel that that is an important opportunity to give them. So looking into adult camp weekends and starting those off this year. Lisa mentioned earlier, but there are a ton of great non-diabetes camps across the country. Make sure that you just have the information that you need, or if you need resources, the ADA has a really great program called Safe at School, which also translates into our summer programs. So they can provide forms, we have training videos for on-site staff to provide them with training to, know everything to know to work with your campers. So it's not just about, getting them to diabetes camp, but also making sure that whatever camp you send them to, we can help prepare them and make sure they're in a safe spot. And then lastly, if kids just want a place and an opportunity to look throughout the school year, we do have a new virtual camp. It's hosted with Heroic Diabetes, which is a program that is throughout the country in different school districts. It's a really great program, has some really great parent information spots on it and resources and links. And it's also a really safe way for kids to play virtually, and they get to go on heroic quests and gain coins, and they can work with you as parents to help gather coins and go on different diabetes quests throughout the game. So there's different modules where they have to answer questions that help them along their journey. And so it's been a really great resource that we have found for kids who are in the 5 to 12 range that are just learning how to better understand diabetes terms, or who are well versed in them and can go on kind of more advanced quests. So has some great daily support. They get to play with other campers in a safe environment. There's no open chats, but they do get to be within the ADA camp world. So lots of really great opportunities just for kids to get the chance to interact. But now we are at the part where I think parents have the most questions and want to know the most about. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ryan McDonough.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Megan, for that transition. I'm Ryan McDonough. I'm a pediatric endocrinologist. I primarily take care of kids with diabetes, and the National Medical Advisory Lead for the ADA camps. A really great honor that comes from having been a part of diabetes camps with the ADA for 15, going on 16 years. So I'm really excited. Camp Planet D in Missouri is where I call home, but I am currently the chief medical officer and a pediatric endocrinologist at Arkansas Children's Northwest. So this is, I will say, when we do introduction sessions for parents and families, we find that there's a theme. There are some questions that you all want to know, and I'm glad to answer those questions. And I think I picked out 10 of the most common ones I've been asked over the years. That doesn't mean that there are only 10. It means that these are the ones I think are going to be the most impactful. But if there are more that you have questions about, please throw them in the chat and we'll do our best to get those answered for you. So these are presented in no particular order. These are just as my brain processed them. So let's start off with, who is going to be taking care of your kid? There is a medical staff, and I think that that implies that there are healthcare professionals, but it's not just healthcare professionals that are here. These are pediatric diabetes specialists. They're primarily made up of physicians and nurse practitioners or PAs that are pediatric trained, that work in diabetes clinics day to day. These are the people you see in clinic that are prescribing the treatment for your child. Most of us have a personal connection to T1D. It may be that we have a loved one, that we personally have it, that we have a child, but everyone here has a purpose connected to diabetes. That is where you're going to find the vast majority of our medical staff. And most of the medical staff, by the way, have been to camp for a long time. There's a lot of us institutions out there who have been around in the double digits of years, having worked with the ADA and other organizations. You're also going to find diabetes specialists. These are most likely, again, going to be people from the clinic that you are familiar with. There will be diabetes nurses, diabetes educators, dietitians, pharmacists, social workers, psychologists. There are every sort of medical resource available to you and your child during the course of diabetes camp. So, question number 2. What does glucose monitoring look like at camp? Okay, yes, we are going to pay very close attention to your kids' blood sugars at camp. And not only are we going to pay close attention to it in the moment, but we are doing daily review of everyone's blood glucoses, looking for trends, looking for patterns. Often what we see is that kids come to camp and are totally different in their level of activity than they are at home. A lot of kids need a lot less insulin at camp than they do on a day-to-day basis. And as a medical professional, as the medical director at diabetes camp, I can promise you that we look at them, review them every day, and make adjustments so that we're preventing hypoglycemia. We're trying to minimize hyperglycemia as best we can. In today's world, most kids are on continuous glucose monitors. So we are going to be watching those. The devices themselves will be with the counselor and within the radius of being able to pick up the signal still of all the campers. But one of the coolest things that has come out of the CGM world in the last few years is that we now are able to, with some of the diabetes technology, centrally locate and centrally monitor it. So I can be in the health hut, I can be in the med cabin, whatever your location, your camp calls it, but I can see most kids' blood sugars in real time on a giant television screen that is helping us manage and identify where there might be kids that need closer attention. Now, that only works at camps that have great Wi-Fi and great cell signal. What happens if they don't? We train the counselors, the medical staff is around to be able to intervene in any blood sugar events that might happen. We're always checking before meals. We're always checking before the pool. That is a hard, fast rule that exists at all camps. We're checking 1 or 2 times overnight. And we are, again, using a CGM primarily, but then we'll do finger sticks in kids who are taking a CGM break. That happens. Some kids need a CGM break during camp, and we will facilitate that. And those kids are going to get their BGs checked 6 to 10 times a day. So the monitoring of glucose is not going to be light. We do it pretty heavily. All right, question 3. How do you manage high and low blood sugars? Well, that is a very, very broad question that, yes, I created, so it should have maybe narrowed it a little bit. But the broadness of it is intentional. We're going to treat diabetes the way that you treat it at home. Our goal is to keep your blood sugars in that same 70 to 180 range that your doctor talks about on a clinic-to-clinic visit basis. We may tend to try and target a little bit higher on that, only because the activity level for these kids often is different. They need less insulin, and we're still learning what they might need. But if they have highs, we're going to treat them. We're going to use the pump, and we'll use your insulin sensitivity factor just like you would at home. If your blood sugar is in that 240 to 300 range, we're going to check ketones and treat it similarly that you do at home. If you have ketones and are on a pump, we're going to change the pump site. We're going to give you subcutaneous insulin through an injection. These are things that are very universal across all of the camps that are going to take care of kids with diabetes. Lows, we routinely follow the traditional 15-15 rule, the 15 grams of carbohydrates, and recheck the blood sugar in 15 minutes, repeat as needed. In kids who are on automated insulin delivery systems, we use that 8 to 10 grams of carbs to treat lows. And there's glucagon readily available. I can tell you in my 16 years of having gone to diabetes camp, it has twice been required at a camp that I have been at in that 16 years. And one of those was a counselor. So it happens. We know how to use glucagon. We will give it and we will call you. But where I'm going to have a whole question about when do you hear from us and when can you talk to us? But I want you to hear that if there is an emergency, our first and foremost priority is taking care of your child. We will do everything that we have been trained to do as healthcare professionals to make sure that your child is safe. I will call you after. I promise. So please know that if your kid is having a hypoglycemic event, I'm treating it. I'm giving glucagon if they need it. I'm going to stabilize them. And then when they are safe and stabilized, that's when I will call you. All right, let's go to question 4. What does insulin administration look like? We do give insulin. All right, that was a little bit of a joke. But I think Monica pointed out earlier that we supervise all insulin administration. Even our kids who are 17 and our counselors in training have had diabetes for 15 years, I still am looking over their shoulder before that dose is administered to make sure that it is an accurate dose, adjusted for activities that we've had, blood sugar patterns they've had, what activities are coming up or that we're anticipating to do for the rest of the evening. All of this is done by a licensed medical professional. We do, of course, want to pre-bolus the best that we can. If you can imagine, in a camp where there is 150 kids with diabetes and one buffet line, sometimes we have to work a little bit of magic to try that timing. It doesn't always work perfectly, but our goal is always to pre-bolus, just like best practices would be. For pumps, carbohydrate and BG is going to be entered into the pump primarily at meal times, and we do that with collective carb counting. So at our camp, we have little pieces of paper on the table. Everyone looks at what they think they might want. They have a sample plate of what the serving sizes look like so they can judge and base what they might actually want serving size wise. We then count, we dose, and then it's time to go to get the food. For kids who are on shots, and one thing, again, we're going to do it just like you would at home. We're going to use the same sensitivity factors. We're going to use the same insulin delivery devices. We tend to use just insulin pens for kids on shots just because of the consistency of the dosing. So if you have a kiddo who is routinely using syringes, that is something that might look a little different at camp. And the other thing that I'll mention here is that we often adjust the time of your basal insulin so that Lantus, the Glargine, the Tresiba, we often will adjust that to be at dinner time. And that's just to facilitate making sure that it gets done. All the kids come to dinner, and it just makes sure that we can keep the insulin contained in one space. All right, question 5. What happens if there is a diabetes emergency? We will call you. I promise. Just like school, if they call you about an issue with the nurse's office or a child's behavior, I'm going to call you. What are some of the main reasons? I'm going to call you if there's severe hypoglycemia. If your child needs glucagon, you're going to get a call from one of us. If your child has a blood sugar of 52 and it doesn't require glucagon, you're not going to get a call from us. We're going to treat it, and we're going to have them go back to their activities. If we are worried about diabetic ketoacidosis, we will work as hard as we can to treat it on site with the resources that we have available to us. At our camp in Kansas City, we get IV fluids. I can administer that with a nurse and at the bedside. We can do those things if we need to. But occasionally, something goes wrong, and we have to take a kiddo to a local hospital for possible evaluation of diabetic ketoacidosis. As it turns out, as good as I think I am at this job, occasionally I need actual lab tests to diagnose things. So that's the circumstances that we would take your kiddo off-site. If for any reason we take your kiddo off-site, we are going to call you. You're going to know about it. And then non-diabetes, that it turns out sometimes kids sprain ankles at camp. Sometimes they get stung by bees. Sometimes they get poison ivy. Sometimes they have allergies that have flared because they are an inside kid and are outside for a week. We will manage those. In addition to being a pediatric endocrinologist, I'm also a board certified pediatrician. So the diabetes camp every year is my 1 week to reconnect to that pediatrician roots. And I will do it, and we will manage things the best we can. You will have family practice docs, we'll have other primary care physicians, pediatricians who are volunteering at camp, and they will facilitate and help with those resources as well. But what I will mention to you is that we will also take your kiddo to urgent care or to emergency department for non-diabetes emergencies as they arise. Question 6. What kind of meals and snacks are available? How do you know what carbs are in the food? We know kids are picky eaters. We will, and I think Lisa and Monica mentioned it earlier, if you know that your kiddo is a really, really picky eater, please tell us. We will help plan, we'll help facilitate the best that we can to make sure that they are able to eat successfully at camp. All of the food, all of the meals are supervised by dietitians. So a dietitian is helping craft the meal plan. They are helping with the carbohydrate counts. They're working with the local food services vendors and the camp to make sure that we are giving them everything that they need to be successful. The all food allergies, intolerances, celiac disease are accounted for in meals, snacks, in low treatments. If your kid has a specific dietary need, there will be specific snacks to treat lows that will be okay for your kiddo to have. And like I mentioned, our RDs supervise carbohydrate counting. And if you ever want to see someone actually level out a scoop of mashed potatoes to the exact half cup that it's supposed to be, the dietitians will do it. All right, question 7. What supplies do I need to pack for my camper? Pump sites. Plan a pump site change every day. So if your camp is 7 days, please send 7 days worth of supplies. You likely won't need it. We likely won't need it, and we will return all of those to you. But we want to make sure that whatever your kiddo is accustomed to using, that we have their preferred thing. If they need specific skin tack, if they need specific overlay patches, if you use Flonase to pre-treat over an injection site, send that stuff. We will use it. We want this to mimic your care at home as closely as possible. CGMs, you don't need to send one for every day. They tend to stay on a little bit better, but if you send at least 1 or 2 site changes, that will be usually pretty good. And insulin, most camps are going to supply the insulin so that you get a little free week of insulin. But please know that we do our best to keep all of the available insulins. But if your kiddo is on a very specific kind of insulin, those who are on the ultra rapid actings or on perhaps concentrated insulins, make sure that you have that conversation with your medical director and your camp director so that we can make sure that we understand their needs and understand that we will do that. If your kid really needs blank, send it. Like I said, we will use it. And then I didn't put this as one of the questions, but please know that we will manage any other medical condition they have. If they have asthma, if they have allergies, if they've got hypothyroidism and need levothyroxine, if they need ADHD meds, we will manage and give them all of their routine home medications. We have very specific ways of tracking that and making sure that they get the medications that they need to be healthy. All right, question 8. What about homesickness? That is not diabetes unique. I can tell you that I spend, I think, a lot of the first night at camp every summer dealing with a lot of tummy aches. And those tummy aches aren't from ketones, and those tummy aches aren't from diabetes. Those tummy aches are from missing home. It is very normal. We do our best not to call you. It doesn't tend to make the situation better for the kids. If I were to give you my experience over the last 15, 16 years, the times that we call you are times that their camper is going to go home. Because once they hear your voice, it's really hard to convince them that there is a positive solution still for them at camp. So we will do our best to keep them. It actually makes it worse on you as well. It's really hard for you to tell your kiddo that they're fine when you're not there to comfort them with the level of connection that they are accustomed to. We have psychologists, we have social workers, we have pediatrician, mental health, and behavioral health experts on site at camp to help manage this. It's very normal, but we do our best to distract them and do our best to keep them at camp. Question 9. All right, this is the one you've all wanted to know. I already can tell. I want to talk to my camper about their glucose. Who do I call? I've been monitoring their blood sugars. What do I do? Let's start with the first bullet here. Give yourself a break. Diabetes stinks, and it doesn't just stink for the kid living with it. It stinks for the entire family, and the stress it causes on parents is unmeasurable. So this is your 1 week. This is your time to take a break from diabetes. And I want to give you a little anecdote because I think this just tells and can help you feel a little bit more comfortable. One of my patients, their first summer at camp, the parents were just beside themselves trying to leave. They were having a really hard time. They lingered for a long time. There were tears from everybody. Mom wanted to follow blood sugar. She wanted to check in every day. She wanted to call multiple times a day. And it was really hard for her. I'll tell you, her camper had a wonderful time. Mom gave herself a break. Fast forward to the next year, fast forward to the following summer for camp, and I get a phone call from my patient's mom asking if they could actually drop their child off 6 hours early because they were going to catch a flight to go on a cruise out of the country. So I promise the first year may be hard, but it is okay. We will get there. Your kid is going to have so much fun connecting with other kids with diabetes and with seeing their medical staff in a way that they haven't ever before. It will be okay. I have also mentioned that on more than one occasion, I've had patients who have never seen me outside of a clinic setting see me as their physician in shorts, in a t-shirt, in a baseball cap, playing volleyball, dodgeball, all of the games, and it helps us connect with your kids too. I've actually had multiple patients come up to me over the course of a camp and say they didn't even realize I had knees because they just assumed I always wore pants. So I do wear shorts at camp. I promise you, if you do, it's really hot and sticky in Missouri in June and July. Okay, but let's get back to this. We encourage, but will not force you to stop following your kids' glucoses. But, and I put this in red. I bolded it. It's in red. It is in caps. It is so important. I want you to take a break. I know I'm not naive, that there are parents out here, there are parents on this call who are going to do it regardless. And that's okay. But it is imperative that you do not call or message your camper. It is imperative that you do not instruct or give direction around insulin dosing remotely. First and foremost, Wi-Fi at camp is not consistent. In some camps, you may only have spotty service, so the values that you're seeing on your follow app may be outdated. They may not be accurate. And chances are, I've already addressed it. So if you are giving your child direction of what to do with their diabetes, and I have also done it, we risk potential of overtreating lows. We risk the potential of double dosing insulin, and that can be extremely dangerous. It can be extremely dangerous. So who do you talk to? Your camp medical director and your camp director are going to have a method that is unique to their camp of how you're going to be able to communicate with them. And I will tell you that from our lived experience, at the beginning of camp, when we check in, I'm going to tell you, and you're going to have a list of all of the reasons that I will call you. So if something happens outside of that, I'm going to call you. I will tell you what that is ahead of time, so you are confident that those are the episodes that you don't have to worry about looking out for, because we are. I could go on and on about this. This is probably the hardest topic, but the biggest takeaway is we want you to take a break. We are managing your child's diabetes while they're at camp. It is unsafe for both of us to try and do it, one of us on site and one of us remote. And we can't guarantee that the data that you're seeing is accurate, is uninterrupted, is up to date. We want to make sure that you realize all of those things, because it can make a difference in the way that we care for your child's diabetes. All right, question 10. How much fun will my child have at diabetes? I left this one for last because they're gonna have loads of fun. They are going to create lifelong friendships. They are going to, for the first time in a very long time, have diabetes is what makes them feel the same as other kids. If there's one thing kids, preteens, teens love more than anything else, is to be like their friends. Diabetes makes them different. And for the first time, or for the annual time, diabetes is what makes them the same. It isn't what defines them, it's what unites them. They will have a blast, I promise. It is a life-changing experience. It is why 16 years later, I am still coming to camp, taking a week away from my clinical practice every summer, because it makes a difference. Because you see the kids grow, you see the joy that they have, you see the friendships and relationships they make, and you see them learn and be able to manage their diabetes in a totally different way than they did before camp. So just know that they're in good hands. you are, of course, there are always going to be questions and there's always going to be fear and anxiety around it, but we've got you. We've got your kid, we've got you, and it will be a really great choice for you to make to send them to camp. All right. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Megan. She's got some final, I think, thoughts for us, and then we got some time for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Ryan. So we just wanted to touch on real quick before we go into the Q&A session. And if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat box. They come to us directly, so don't worry about them going out to the whole group. But we know there's a lot of questions around registration and financial assistance, not just with our camps, but with every member camp of DECA. We want to make sure kids have the opportunity to go to camp, and we don't want finances to be a barrier. So we work really hard throughout the year when we're not planning camp to make sure that we're raising funds to send kids to camp. We get the opportunities to partner with a lot of other organizations that provide first-time scholarships. A lot of great local vendors and funders want to send kids to camp. So just please know that that should never be a barrier for your child being able to go to camp. DECA has some great resources. Through the ADA, we also offer our own financial assistance and reduced cost programs. So if you are unsure if you qualify, just apply. We try to make sure every family has some sort of assistance. So don't let that be a barrier when you are looking at the cost of camps across the country. I would say if it's a non-ADA camp, just make sure to check out their financial assistance process. Ours is different than everyone else's, but I guarantee you when we get to go to the DECA conference every year, that's a huge topic of making sure that camp is accessible to all kids. And sometimes in a summer, multiple camps accessible to kids if there's more opportunities in the area. And just a plug for our registration, we open February 11th for all of our American Diabetes camps across the country. So that is live, but we are going to jump over to questions and resources. There's a couple websites up here. Just one to our ADA camp. We also now have our Youth and Family Corner. It's a great resource spot if you want information on camps or nutrition, or you have a child transitioning to college or teen years or safe at school. And then also DECA's website is up here. They also have a great find a camp map of where you can look for camps and other great resources. So with that being said, we're going to jump over to the chat box and pull up some questions. Lisa, I'm going to direct this one to you. Are there any diabetes camps near Norfolk, Virginia?
You are going to find a diabetes camper community just about anywhere that you're located. So yeah, like Megan just mentioned, the DECA website, diabetescamps.org. Click on that in the upper, there's basically two huge call to actions on the top. One is the green one that says find a camp. And so you can find somebody or even probably more than one, honestly, with where you're located, who's going to be in your area. So yes, certainly check that out for where you're located now and where you might even want to float to. Like Megan said, many different shapes and sizes of camps all over the place.
Monica, I'm going to direct the next one to you. Ryan talked about insulin being donated. What other types of products are donated to diabetes camps that you see?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Ryan kind of talked through things that you're going to want to pack for your camper, including sites and CGM supplies. There's a lot of stuff that we ask you actually not to send for your camper. If they're attending an ADA camp, and many DECA camps, but if they are attending an ADA camp, they do not need tester kits. We have those ketone testers. Like Dr. McDonough mentioned, we have so much glucagon that we want to have at the end of the week too, but it's all over the place. We have all the low treatment you will ever need. And we actually ask you to please not send any low treatment or any type of snack with your camper because we don't want any carbs being consumed that we do not know about. We are covered as far as, all testing supplies, glucagon, insulin, like unless it's a U200 or something like that, just connect with your camp director. We've got it all.
All right, this is a great question. How is swimming / the pool handled? Maybe a Ryan Monica combo.
Yeah, Monica, do you want to start with like the swim certification, and then I'll talk about diabetes management?
Yeah, so this can be specific to your camp, but all of our camps, if there's a deep end or a waterfront, there's going to be some sort of swim test that happens. So pay attention to like the schedule that comes out from your camp, and they'll include materials about this, but it's always good to prep your kid that there may be a swim test involved. There are always counselors with them, not just at the pool, but in the pool. So our staff will be getting, or the waterfront, if that's what your camp has. So staff will be getting right in the water with them. At many of our camps, we swim every day. It's a super fun time of the day. So make sure they're ready for a swim test if they choose to, and if they don't, there's usually a shallow end or somewhere else to hang out. And I will let Dr. Ryan tell us about diabetes management in the pool.
Yeah, so I mentioned during my top 10 questions that checking BG before pool is non-negotiable. We will never let anyone get into the pool with a blood sugar less than 70s. And most of the time, we're not going to let a kid get into the pool or the waterfront if their blood sugar is less than 100. And we will treat to get that up. Monica mentioned that the counselors are in the pool. I would say most of the medical staff don't tend to get in the pool or the water, but we do tend to be right there around the edge. And then we are ready to go with snacks, with glucagon as needed. We tend to suspend any insulin delivery for kids who are on pumps. We will for even the kids on Omnipods, which can't, we'll consider suspending the insulin delivery if they have had low blood sugars. We're going to tailor the response to each of the kids, but the hard and fast rule is 0 people get in the pool with low blood sugars. And we will treat, and if they come back up and are able to get back in the pool because they've met that 100 threshold, get back in the pool. But we will try to get them up as quick as we can so they can get back to the fun that they're having.
Great. Ryan, this will be a Ryan Monica combo question, I think also. My child has a pump. Can you talk more about how it's regulated via phone if phones are discouraged, or more about that process?
Yeah, I'll start with this one, if that's okay, Monica. First and foremost, we get it. The cell phone is the receiver for a lot of CGM. The cell phone is the controller for several brands of insulin pumps now. So yes, your cell phone, it's ubiquitous in our world. If this were diabetes camp 10 years ago, there would be no phones. You'd have just taken it home with you. That is not today's world. So we've had to adapt, and we've had to learn how to manage diabetes at camp in a way that still maintains that camp feel, but provides the kids with their access to the technology they need. I say the same thing at camp that I do about diabetes when we're talking about school. The phone is a medical device as long as it's being used as a medical device. The moment it's used as a non-medical device, it is a non-medical device. So what do? The counselors are primarily going to keep the phones in a backpack that is for their campers, for their group around them, so that we pull them out at the times that we need them for meals, for checking BGs, for doing boluses, and then they go back in the bag. All of the alerts and alarms are on, so they're going to go off in the bag, and the counselor will pull it out and figure out whose sensor is going off. But we don't let them use their phone unsupervised. So when we're doing their bolus, when we're checking their BG, I'm watching it. They're not going to get into Snapchat. They're not going to start taking pictures of their buddies. They aren't going to be TikToking. I will say one of the things that we've had to deal with was, with Snapchat in particular, snap streaks are a real life thing. And we've had kids to really try, but we encourage them to find an alternative method to keep their snap streak up that is not doing it at camp. So all of the phone use is supervised. We don't, during free time, just give them their phone and say, go to town. It is a medical device, and that is how we leverage it, and that's how we use it.
I would just add that applies to overnights as well. So typically during overnights, the phones are kept in what we call at many camps our parking lot. So it's right in the middle of the room. They each have a sign, their phone goes on it with their passcode on it. We often will change their lock screen when you get there to check in. So the med staff can get in there to do what they need to do overnight. So it has the passcode right on it. So it's also not right next to them overnight, but it is in range.
Great. Well, we are at time and just want to say thank you both to our presenters and for all of you for joining this evening. We really appreciate it. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to the ADA directly or to DECA. We are happy to have conversations if this spurs more questions. Both organizations are in this together, so we are excited to get more kids to camp or answer questions as parents might have them. So thank you again for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.